Hey everybody, Wowie here, and today I'm here to talk to you about Banished. Recently I did an achievement run on the game. Every now and then I get it in my head that I have to complete a game, and I will do everything I can to get all of those achievements. And this time it was Banished. Now I put in over 100 hours into this game and have completed this game. I have completed it to the point where only 0.6% of the Steam community has actually completed what I have. So here's what I have to say about Banished. We're going to talk about the hardest achievements in the game and how you, as a player, can get them. First, let's talk about Mountain Men. Mountain Men is actually a very easy achievement, but not many people have actually gotten it. Only 1.5% of the Steam community has actually achieved this, and it's probably because they don't understand how you're supposed to play that type of map. So, in other words, you have to play on a harsh climate map, it's a small mountainous map, and then you have to maintain a population of 50 people for 20 years. Now, 1 year in game is going to amount to 10 minutes, so 10 minutes times 20. You do the math. Now, how you actually maintain that population of 50 people is kind of easy. All you have to really do is set up foresters, quarries, and mines, and then you build yourself a trading post. What you're going to do is you're going to pump all of those resources into the trading post, and then you're going to basically trade that out for food and tools. Don't try to make the tools yourself. Don't try to do anything like that, because there's not enough resources on the map to sustain your population as well as farming. So you cannot farm and forest and hunt and all of that on this map. You have to choose something to do, and your best bet is to be a trader. Next up is actually the lamest achievement in the game. I mean, this really is the dumbest achievement. It's just called Firefighter. Only 1.5% of the community has this, and the only reason I think that is because no one wants to put in the time for this. This is actually a very time-consuming achievement, and it really has no bearing on the game. So basically, Firefighter has you build 20 wells in a single town. Now, that means that you're going to have to spend 40 stone per well. 40 times 20. This is ridiculous. This is a tremendous amount of resources. This is really all about just using resources rather than actually having something decent for an achievement. Now, you do need wells to combat fire in the game, but you don't need 20 wells. This is kind of ridiculous, and it's just a waste of resources. The next achievement is something you should be proud of if you actually get. It's called Isolationist, and only 1.1% of the Steam community has this. Now, what you need to do is reach 300 citizens without building a trading post. Now, while that doesn't sound like a lot, but it really is. So this means that you're going to have to produce everything yourself. You'll have to produce all of your tools, all of your clothing, all of your food, all of your building materials, everything. So this means that you're going to have to be a resource management master, and you're going to have to be able to maintain those resources of building materials, food, everything else. But remember, people are also a resource, so you have to also maintain and watch how old they are, how many children they have, are there houses for them to move into. If I build this house here, is the population going to get to the point where they're going to starve to death? This is something where when I initially started it, it was a bit difficult, but I did get it. However, the way I was doing it was a challenge, and I'll explain that challenge at the end. Now, the next one is just dumb, really, to try and do, but you can do it. The next achievement only has 1% of the Steam community that has it, and it's called Uneducated. Now, this means reach a population of 300 citizens without building schools. Essentially what that means is that your children, when they reach age 10, they immediately become workers, and they're going to get into the community and start helping out with building and getting food and everything else. But the problem with being uneducated is that you're not as proficient at your job as somebody who is. Now, the advantage to that is if you do educate your population, they're going to have to wait until like age 15 before they actually start. And that's also going to reduce the number of children being born as well, because when they're uneducated, they start having children at age 12, whereas if they're educated, they start at 15, 16. So this is something that can help your population growth, but can also very much hinder your production growth. And so as a result, you really have to make that distinction. But if you go with the uneducated route, you're going to produce a little bit less, but it is something that anybody can do. Just don't build schools. It really is as simple as that. Just don't build schools. All right, The next one is my favorite achievement in this entire game, and it's called One with Nature. Now, One with Nature only has 0.8% of the Steam community that has it, and it is something that is very difficult to do. I mean, in trying to do this, I actually had 3 different communities that starved to death. So, One with Nature wants you to reach 400 citizens, but you cannot build a crop field, an orchard, or a pasture, meaning that all your food has to come from fishermen, hunters, and gatherers. Now, the thing about that is fishermen need to be in the water without any buildings touching their circle. You also can't have any bridges or any other fishermen, anything like that, no trading posts, and so they need a massive amount of water to actually get proficient amount of fish. The hunters need a lot of forest, but things are going to affect their actual area of effect. If you build other buildings within their range, it reduces the amount of food they get. Gatherers are very similar. You really need to make sure that they're far away from the town so they can actually do their jobs. So what I always do is I create a group of 4 buildings that work together. I create the Hunter's Lodge, the Forester's Lodge, and the Gatherer's Lodge. I build all 3 of those around a storage barn. And then what's going to happen is they're going to slowly clear out all of the stone and iron, and they're going to build up that forest. And this is going to cause them to actually get a lot of food. But you need to make sure that they're connected via road to a small group of buildings in the center of your town. Then you're going to have to spread out. Essentially, what you're going to do is you're going to create a small little town grouping around a single resource dock, and then you're going to compass direction, all 4 compass directions, build out until you have your resources being collected. It's something that's very difficult to do, and if you do it, you should feel very proud of yourself. This is an achievement I was very happy to get, and I just have to say it was totally worth it because it made me feel like a resource management king. Okay, so the next and final achievement of the hardest achievements in Banished is called Tenure. And it really is a bullshit achievement. It's an achievement that is all about waiting around to have fun. And I'll explain. So Tenure wants you to build a town that has a population of 500, but it will only recognize it after the 200-year mark. Now, 1 year in the game is going to be 10 minutes. This is going to give you a rough estimate of at least 33 hours you're going to have to spend in one save file. Now, the real problem with that is that you're going to be waiting around for population growth most of the time so you can do anything. And the game really doesn't run in the background. It will only really run up front unless you have it in a really small window, and then you're running the risk of having some major issues happen. So you really are going to have to sit there at this one save file for 33 hours with nothing really happening. And the problem with that is that at the 18 to 20 hour mark, you're really waiting around for population growth for anything to happen. And this is something that is a major fault of this achievement. So let me explain how population growth works. So at the 20-year to 30-year marks, you're going to basically have a population decline. And so people are going to start dying left and right, and you're going to be reducing those jobs. So you're going to basically take everybody out of your mines, everybody out of your quarries, things like that, and you're going to shove them all into food production. So you're going to end up with a surplus of food at this time, which is great. So all of them are going to be producing food, but nobody's going to be producing children, and you're not going to be getting laborers. And if you do have schools at this time, which you really should by this point, they're not going to be going into laborers right away. They're not going to become workers for these jobs that have been vacant. So you're just going to be losing people left and right. And if they do go to school, they're not also going to be having their own children, so you're not going to have that. Now, you can supplement this by building houses, but the problem with building houses is that the older people who live with other older people are still going to move into them. So at least 1/3 to 2/3 of your houses are going to be filled up with these elderly people. And so you're going to have to build more houses for these younger people. Now, the major issue with this is that when those people finally do die off, it's going to create a population boom that could cause your people to starve to death. This really is a resource management game, and people are a resource. If you don't control their actual, I hate to say it, but breeding, then you're not going to actually succeed at this game. And once you get to that 100-year mark, it comes down to population control and waiting for people to breed waiting for nomads to come in order for you to have fun with the game and continue building things. It really just comes down to at the 20 hour mark, you're sitting around waiting for fun. And you have to wait for another 13 plus hours minimum, depending on how you're playing, how many disasters you have, and things of that nature. And this is all at 10 times speed. So this really is a bullshit achievement. If you want it, it's completely possible to get it. But this is something where I had to spend days playing the game in order just to get this achievement. And after spending over 100 hours in this game and getting every single achievement in this game, I do have to say that out of every single one that I did, this one should not be in the game. It is a bullshit achievement, and if you don't go for it, I don't blame you. Okay, now last but not least today, let's talk about how I did my achievements for the hardest ones. And I want to say that I combined the Isolationist, Uneducated, and One with Nature all together to create my Druid challenge. And so basically what that means is Isolationist, 300 citizens, no trading post. Uneducated, 300 citizens, no schools. And One with Nature, 400 citizens, no crop fields, no orchards or pastures. This creates a real challenge in the game because your people are going to be producing less because they're uneducated. You cannot trade, so you have to produce every single resource yourself with the Isolationist. And because of the One with Nature, you have to get all your food from hunters, gatherers, and fishermen. This is actually a very hard challenge, but I did it, and it made me feel great that I was able to do it. Now, once I did that, I moved on to the tenure achievement, and because I had already completed those other 3 achievements on the same map, I was actually able to just thrive at that point. No matter what was thrown at me, I had my road set up, I had my town set up, I had everything there to the point where I knew exactly what I was going to do from then on, and I was able to completely fill the bottom half of the map with everything I needed to not only survive, but to thrive, to the point where I had 450,000 food in reserve, and I was still producing so much food that my storage was capped. Now, there is an important thing to remember if you do want to go for the tenure achievement or the One with Nature achievement. With the One with Nature achievement, do not build markets. Markets are an end game thing, and that building, that structure, is going to have them pull all of the food resources from all over the map and dump them into the market. Now, the main problem with that is that if you have people working on the outside edges of the map and they need food and they're not close to a market, they will starve before they reach the market. And they're not the only ones, because people will start hoarding the food from the market in their homes once they see that first person starve, and then people will starve everywhere. And it's an endless spiral into the depths of hell when you get that starvation sound. It's a horrible thing, and there's almost no way to recover from it. So if you're going for the One with Nature achievement, do not build markets. Instead, build storage barns around all of your homes. This will ensure that people are able to actually thrive. Now, once you have actually gotten that One with Nature achievement and you want to move on to the tenure achievement, you are going to need to build markets. But keep in mind, markets have to be near the houses that people live in, so they can actually get this, because the farther they have to go to a market to get the things that they need for their homes, the less work they're going to do for you. Meaning that the more travel time they have to do, the less production you have, and the more likely it is that you'll end up in a starvation situation. So you cannot build just a single market. You have to build markets in each of the corners of the map that you have towns or even just buildings that people are working at. This will ensure that no matter what happens, you succeed. Alright guys, that's it for my Banished achievement run. I hope you enjoyed it, and I will continue to do achievement runs, but I'll probably mix up the format based on feedback. So this was something where I actually wanted to edit all the footage together and show each of the achievements being earned, but the main problem with that is that I have over 100 hours into this game, and those achievements are spread out throughout those 100 hours. When I was actually recording this game for the achievements, I completely filled up my hard drive. It's a 2 terabyte hard drive that I used just for footage, and it completely filled up. So unfortunately, with this particular game, that's not possible. But with the next game, it just might be. We'll see what happens. All right, guys, thanks for watching. And of course, remember to always keep gaming.